Hello everyone and welcome back. I'm Dr. Sneha and today it's time for plaque hypothesis. So let's get started. We've already discussed the plaque structure and formation in the previous broadcast, and today we are going to discuss the various plaque hypothesis and the different time periods when it was given. So to briefly have an idea about the timeline, so between 1980 to approximately 1930, it was the golden age of microbiology. So microscopes and culture medias were used to identify different microorganisms, and more diseases were associated with microorganisms being the main etiological factor. Now between 1930 to approximately 1960 was the era where local factors such as overhanging restorations, calculus, crowding was given importance. So these constitutional defects were associated with the initiation and progression of periodontal destruction. Now after 1960s to approximately 1990s, there was an invent of lot of new technology like DNA hybridization and transmission electron microscopes. So this helped us to identify anaerobic species, and the interest again went back to microorganisms being the main cause of the periodontal destruction. Now post 1990 and even till today, the concept of host immune response holds good. That means the pathogen or the microorganism along with the host contributes to the periodontal destruction. Because we are going to discuss a lot of microorganisms today, a shout out to Antony A. Leeuwenhoek. He is the father of microbiology. He was the first person to explore the microbial world, and he termed them animalcules or tiny animals. And Google recently celebrated his 385th birthday, and they made this Google Doodle to pay tribute to his achievements. So coming on to the main topic, we have major 5 plaque hypotheses that we are going to talk about today. The first one was given in the year 1890 by Miller, and it was the traditional non-specific plaque hypothesis. So after about 90 years, we have the second one, which is the specific plaque hypothesis by Loish. Then within a decade, in 1986, we have the third hypothesis, that is the updated non-specific plaque hypothesis by Thieland. P.D. Marsh in the year 1994 gave us the fourth plaque hypothesis, which is the ecological plaque hypothesis, and ultimately very recently in 2012, Haggie Shingalis and his colleagues came up with the keystone pathogen hypothesis model. So let's discuss this in detail. So first, coming on to W.D. Miller and his non-specific plaque hypothesis. Now he stated that small quantity of plaque did not cause any periodontal destruction, but when this small quantity increased in amount and the number of bacterial colonies and bacterial count increased, then it definitely caused periodontal destruction. So this was a very simple hypothesis wherein it stated that the quantity of bacteria or the quantity of plaque contributed to periodontal destruction. So if the bacterial count is more, the host won't be able to detoxify the bacteria or the bacterial products, leading to the periodontal disease. Now this hypothesis stayed true for a very long period of time, but the main drawback of the hypothesis was that it could not reason out that in certain cases like aggressive periodontitis, though there is very less amount of plaque which is present, still we can see a lot amount of destruction. So this concept could not be answered by this hypothesis, and that's the reason the second hypothesis came about in the year 1976 by Walter Loish, and this was the specific plaque hypothesis. Now as the term suggests, it was specific in nature. That means it stated that it is not the quantity of bacteria that would lead to periodontal destruction, but the quality of bacteria that lead to periodontal destruction. So as stated before, during this era, there was a lot of technological advancement that was done, and it was seen that the bacterial count was no more important. But if there was specific pathogenic bacteria which were seen in the plaque sample, then it would definitely lead to periodontal disease. Now, there was a classical experiment which was conducted with the help of kinamycin, which is an antibiotic, and when this was given, it specifically reduced the amount of Streptococcus mutants, and this significantly affected the occurrence of dental caries. So it was seen that Streptococcus mutants was the main organism in the plaque responsible for development of dental caries, and when Streptococcus mutants was inhibited by kenomycin, the dental caries occurrence also was diminished. But within few years, it was seen that kenomycin was no longer able to act on certain bacterial niches, and there was development of antibiotic resistance, and though kenomycin was administered, caries did come back in certain areas. Now this situation could not be explained by Walter Loisch. So within a decade, in the year 1986, we came back to our non-specific plaque hypothesis again, but this time it was Thierland who gave us the updated non-specific plaque hypothesis. So I could not find the original picture of Thierland, and that's the reason it's not inserted. If any one of you can find one, please insert it in the comment section below so that it will be helpful for all of us. So Thierland came back and stated that it was not any one single microorganism that can lead to periodontal destruction. Instead, the virulence of the whole bacterial plaque was responsible for periodontal disease. So again, the non-specificity came into picture. So this virulent plaque sample would cause inflammatory reaction in the body, which ultimately cause the evasion of defense mechanism, leading to periodontal disease. Now this hypothesis could not hold true in many situations, because of which within few years came the ecological plaque hypothesis by P.D. Marsh. Now this hypothesis was based upon a very famous statement by Bass and Becking, who stated that everything is everywhere but the environment selects. That means that the microorganisms are present throughout the oral cavity in all of us, but only in presence of certain environmental factors it manifests itself and can lead to periodontal destruction. So here the importance of environmental factors or ecological stresses was emphasized. So again, they stated that microorganisms are present in all beings, but these microorganisms can only become virulent in presence of certain risk factors like smoking, presence of long-term chronic illness, age, dietary insufficiencies. So these are the environmental factors which in turn influence the microorganism, leading to periodontal destruction. Now ecological plaque hypothesis is a very good fundamental hypothesis and till date it's followed. Now coming on to the next hypothesis, which is quite recent, it was given by Hagi Shingalis and his co-workers, which is the keystone pathogenic hypothesis. This hypothesis states that certain species have an effect on their environment that is disproportional relative to their overall abundance. Now I know this statement can be quite confusing. Let's try and break it down. So it stated that certain organisms, even when present in low abundance, can have an effect on the quantity of the normal microflora, and these organisms which are present in low abundance are called as the keystone species. So these are the pathogenic microorganisms or the important microorganisms, even when they are present in low quantity or low amounts, will directly affect our microflora or the plaque, which further can lead to periodontal destruction. So there was an experiment conducted by Hagi Shingalis and his co-workers to prove this. So for this they took germ-free mice. That means the oral cavity of these mice did not contain any kind of microorganisms, and here they introduced small quantity of P. gingivalis. But remember, it was only in small quantity. Now once this P. gingivalis was introduced, it grew and multiplied in number, but eventually it was seen that there was no periodontal destruction that was developed. Now on the other hand, they took normal mice, that is mice which were not germ free. They did have the normal microflora in their mouth, and in these mice they introduced a small quantity of P. gingivalis. Now in this scenario it was seen that the P. gingivalis grew in number and multiplied, but it also affected the normal microflora which was seen inside the oral cavity, and ultimately in these mice there was development of periodontal destruction. So with the help of this example, it was seen that certain microorganisms which are pathogenic in nature, they form the keystone species model, and because of their virulence they can affect the normal microflora as well, leading to periodontal disease. So to quickly recapitulate the various plaque hypotheses and to correlate with our timeline which we discussed earlier, So in the golden age of microbiology, we had the non-specific plaque hypothesis by Miller way back in 1890, and this plaque hypothesis stayed true for almost 90 years before we had the specific plaque hypothesis by Walter Loesch. Now, because of few shortcomings of specific plaque hypothesis, we went back to our traditional non-specific plaque hypothesis, but this time it is termed as the updated non-specific plaque hypothesis. Now, post 1990s, the effect of environment was also emphasized, and we came up with the ecological plaque hypothesis. And ultimately, very recently, Hagi Shingalis and his co-workers came up with the keystone pathogenic model. So I hope this video was helpful, and if it was, please go and subscribe to this channel and give this video a thumbs up. I would love to hear from you in the comment section below, and do follow us on our Instagram and Facebook page for regular updates. So with that, I hope you guys remain safe. Until we meet next, a big goodbye.